Long ago, seafarers told fables of a monster that was so fearsome, so enormous, and so powerful that even today, stories mention its name. Though it has taken many forms throughout history, such as a colossal crustacean, sea serpent, and giant squid, the one most recognized has 8 tentacles, serrated teeth, and an insatiable hunger. Whether Joe Jonas is singing the Macarena as one, or I'm sipping the spiced rum that holds its namesake, this supersized cephalopod still catches our attention present day. Arrow Odd knew it as Hafgufa. Others called it sea reek. But only one name stood the test of time. Today, we abduct
the Kraken.
What a dramatic introduction. The what? I'm sorry. What did you call it?
the Kraken.
The Kraken.
Yeah.
Well, let's get Kraken.
Yeah, my voice was cracking a little bit, if you didn't know.
Oh, God. Well, welcome to the podcast, you guys. It is the pilot for Crop Circles. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are starting this journey, myself, Ash, Cory, and Maile, and we are so excited to do this. But before we go anywhere and start dissecting the creature that is the Kraken, like I said, my name is Ash, and today I think I'm identifying with Rice Krispie treats.
Oh, so good.
You like a Rice Krispie treat?
Like a good fresh-made Rice Krispie treat.
Yeah, the homemade ones. And you want to know why? Ask me why.
Why, Ash? Why do you identify as a Rice Krispie treat today?
Snap, crack, and pop. Rice Krispie treat.
That hurt my soul.
I'm
It
so
made me
sorry.
smile all at the same time. It was good and bad. It's my kind of humor.
Yeah,
It's
no,
something
it's
I would
terrible.
tell.
That was the joke that I was hyping up so much, and it's still, the delivery was not great. You know what? There's a joke there somewhere that haven't unearthed yet. But anyways,
I
sorry.
think we're just gonna crack into a lot of different jokes today.
Yeah, I think my jokes are crack-a-lackin', if you know
You're
what
definitely lacking in the
Lacking.
Kraken.
Yes. Sorry. Anyways, Cory, thank you for coming on with me today. What are you identifying as?
I'm identifying today as, Tweedledee and Tweedledum. If they were both not just twins, but if they had triplets, and I was like the brother of Tweedle. Yeah. What would you call the third one?
Tweedledee, Tweedledum,
Tweedledit?
and Tweedledot.
Tweedledot? Ooh,
Dot.
Tweedledot sounds cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely like
The third.
Tweedledot. He's
The
like
third.
he's like the worst one.
The worst one.
He's definitely
They're
the
both
worst.
kind of nefarious, I think. In my opinion, they're kind of villains in the story, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they're
A
pretty
little
bad.
bit.
Yeah,
I
they're
don't
pretty
know.
awful. And
Yeah.
they're pretty gross.
Yeah, they're kind of ugly. Anyways, not to shame Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Sorry to all the stands out there,
much
but
love, much love.
yeah, so that's cool. Just causing chaos today is what your vibe is.
Yeah. I feel like inwardly, I think people think I'm dumb, but on the outside, I'm wreaking havoc on the world.
Wreaking havoc, true.
Yeah.
So true, bestie.
Just
But
like
yeah,
the Kraken.
Just like the Kraken. Wreaking havoc all across the world. Well, I'm sure you guys are all familiar with the Kraken, whether it be through Pirates of the Caribbean, whether it be through, like you said, a spiced rum. We've all heard of it. And right before we started recording this, actually, I had asked both Cory and Maile what they thought the Kraken looked like, because I think we all kind of have the idea in our heads, like what it's like. And it was kind of polarizing, because Maile and I were like, dude, this is definitely like a coral red color. You disagree?
Yeah, I disagreed. I was like, no, it's definitely like a mossy green, maybe with like a bluish hue to it. But I found that like most colors, like it's either like a red or a green. What people think.
Yeah, so interesting, right? And I don't know, I feel like everyone kind of has like their general idea of what the Kraken is. So it's kind of funny to hear about like how our differences of our imagination were about it. Because it's everywhere. I'm sure literally everyone in the English speaking world has heard of or seen a Kraken version in their media. But it kind of makes us wonder, where does this myth come from? And why do we still continue to add Krakens literally to every video game or story to this day? So we're going to deep dive into some history. We're going to deep dive into some pop culture references, and we're going to find out what makes this thing tick. But before we get into the timeline of it all, we got to talk about, what does the Kraken look like, you know?
Yeah, Ash, give me that stat block, girl.
Let's go. So, in history, the Kraken has been described as like this big animal, like big. This thing is meaty, Mr. Meaty. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, very that.
Where's the meat?
Yeah, literally. This thing is huge. I think, like, over history, it has kind of differed in size. Because at first it was like, okay, cool, it's an octopus. And then all of a sudden, it was the size of various islands.
Yeah. All, not just one, but like you said, multiple islands all at the same time.
Yeah, like, what the heck? So that, you know, as is a myth. But anyways, it was known as a squid or octopus-like creature with giant tentacles, suction cups, sometimes spikes, and these huge eyes, which is crazy. Like, I always try to put myself in, like, the situation where, like, imagine we were getting attacked by a kraken. I'd be out. Suction cupped in. I don't know. They're just so big. Like, they're so big.
I don't think anybody would stick around if they saw a kraken.
No, they're gonna stick around, stick to the kraken.
Yeah, suck right to it.
They're gonna, yeah, get
That would suck.
Goodbye. I am so. These jokes are. Woo.
They're lacking in the kraken.
They're lacking in the kraken, as previously mentioned. So don't expect anything better from us. Thank you so much. But yeah, so over time, these things have been just described in a very just different amount of ways. It's been a cuttlefish, it's been an octopus, it's been a whale, it's been a squid, it's been a fish. But generally, I think that we like to think that it's a squid. Right, like overall, kind of squid-esque.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite renditions of it was that it looked like a fish's body, or just a fish in general, with tentacles around its neck. And if you think about it, like that vision of a fish with tentacles around its neck, it looks like a squid. Just tilt the fish vertically with the tentacles and everything. It looks like a squid. That's what a squid looks like, and that's like where my like brain went. What? Like that's such a good description. If you don't know what a squid is, you know?
Yeah, that it's just in that squids are actually part of the QAnon conspiracy. They don't actually exist. They're just fish with tentacles, and we've all been lied to by the government.
It's been Halloween every day for them.
Literally, every day. Anyways,
Relate to that hentai.
we're gonna not the hentai. Oh my god, we'll circle back to hentai and to QAnon. Actually, never thought I'd say both of those things in the same sentence, QAnon and hentai, but here we are. Anyways, so back to the kraken. We all know it. We all know it's big. We all know that it has tentacles. But where did it even come from? You know?
Yeah, I'm asking that same question.
We're all asking.
Come on, tell me,
So
Ash.
when we did further research, we figured out that it was a sailor story, which, I mean, I think I know enough sea shanties now to be considered a sailor. I'm just saying. Y'all be on that sea shanty TikTok from last year? I don't know. I was.
I was there.
I was
got
there.
you.
We were all there.
It's
Yeah.
playing on the stations at the radio. It's playing at the station. It's playing in the gym, like on the radio stations.
they play at the sea
They play the
shanties?
TikTok like EDM remix sea shanties.
Oh, that's fun.
And I'm sitting there like trying to get a pump to it.
What do you know the lyrics? Like, come and the weather and come to
Yeah,
bring
that's
us
that
sugar
one.
and tea
And
and
there's like a
rum. Dun.
Like behind it.
Straight up in the club. Walk up in the club like, what
They're
up,
like
I
doing
got
their
a...
cycling class to it.
No, walk up in the club like, what up, I got a big tentacle.
I wish.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Continue.
Continues. Back to sailors. So yeah, this story was originally thought to be of Nordic origin, and it was supposed to excuse lost ships, not necessarily excuse, but to explain lost ships, and to make seafaring just more exciting and to tell the tales of the choppy ocean waters that they would explore, which I'm sure that back in those days seemed very real. They had no CGI, no type of internet or nothing. So I feel like there was just a lot of things that in stories just seemed so otherworldly that they could be true because
Yeah, they didn't have internet. They didn't have photos. They didn't. Like,
Yeah.
all they had was word of mouth, really, to tell you what was up, and books by credible people. But who's to say they were credible? You know?
Yeah. So that's kind of what brings us to the Nordic stories of the sailors. Off the coast of Norway, deep in the ocean, people would bring back tales of these creatures, just causing havoc, doing all the things, doing crazy stuff. And Norse legends brought those things to life. In 1180, King Sven, I'm not sure. I'm so sorry for butchering this man's name, but this king of Norway warned sailors of a monster in ocean waters between Greenland, Iceland, and Norway. And 1180 was the first time that this was like officially kind of said, and people were a little shook. People were a little scared. They said, "Oh my God, not this, not the oceans." So that
Scary
was
stuff.
yeah, it was very terrifying. I think in 1180 to have found out that a king of all people was saying like, "Just be careful out there." I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
He was like at that point, I think, striving to be king, and then once he made this statement, he like 4 years later became king.
Oh
of
my
Norway
God.
and was like, hey, yo, I rule this. Be careful out there, you know?
Yeah, striking fear into people's hearts as the rulers did back then. And then a little less than 100 years later, in 1250, King's Mirror was a book, and the narrator in this book states of the Hafgufa. The Hafgufa is Icelandic in origin, meaning half sea, and gufa, meaning steam, and was just saying that there are two of them, infertile and just out here being a mess, just wreaking havoc, like I said before.
Yeah, and I think they mentioned because, like, if they were fertile at some point, there would be thousands. There would be plenty of Krakens around, you know, like Hafgufa. So
Lots of Hafgufa.
there was only two, and they must have just been infertile at the time.
So, yeah, they had a very sad relationship, those two. Well, I mean, I don't know, are they...
It could have just been like two bros chilling in a hot tub 5 feet apart. Because,
Yeah.
you know.
Two Hafgufas chilling in the ocean, 5 feet apart because they're infertile. But
We need to quote that on the Twitter or something.
so they were just in there, you know, hanging out, and apparently everyone was very lucky and very excited that they were infertile because there were only two in the ocean, kind of being told as like these crazy creatures who were teaming up to just destroy ships. They also had a very strange feeding habit of pooping, which I thought was really funny because they would poop and then they would like poop essentially fish food. Yeah.
Gross.
Right? So they would poop the fish food, and the fish would be like, "Oh my god, yes, buffet!" And they would swim up, ready to have a meal, ready to like munch and crunch. And as they were eating, the Hafgufa would open up and swallow them whole. Right? It would be
Yeah.
kind of like a double whammy because where all the fish go, guess who else following? Who else is following these guys?
Oh, the fishermen, right?
The fishermen.
The fishermen.
So it would be like fish food central, and then all of a sudden, there would be
Yeah.
lots of fishermen chasing after this huge schools of fish to, you know, get their money's worth of the day, and they would also get swallowed up. You know, it's a 2-for-1. So the the Hafgufa was like, this is a good system. We gotta start doing this. So in the King's Mirror, they describe how this poop story ended up being, you know, important for them.
Sounds like a shitty meal, though.
Shitty meal. Sorry. Okay. So tell me, let's continue on to the late 13th century.
Yeah, so in the late 13th century, there was these legends told of this man called Odd. In these in the Odd saga, it basically were these legends written down, and they were kind of just put to paper, and they were being presented to people saying like that this hero had conquered all these monsters all the way to Jotunheim and back, which is basically where the ice giants are from. Like, you know, like Loki from the MCU, basically like that's where he's from. Like, this guy had been there and back to Earth and fought all of these monsters in all like the 9 realms, and he came into contact with a Hafgufa, and not just the Hafgufa, he came into contact with something called the Heatherback. All at the same time, when he had like a crew of 20 ships or so.
The Heatherback. What
Yeah, the
that?
Heatherback. It's its own monster in the Nordic mythology, and it basically is this massive whale that doubles as an island. It'll pose as an island, wait for sailors to kind of like dock their ships on its back, and these guys will they'll get off. They'll just start walking around on the back, thinking it's just an island with grass on it, and then once everybody's off, this whale just dips. It sinks into the ocean, creating like just massive currents that sweep over all of the people, drowning them, and then there's its meal right there. And unluckily for this guy, Odd, he ended up running into not just the Hafgufa, but also that Heatherback at the same time. And the Heatherback ended up tricking his men, and they all ended up, a lot of them ended up dying. And the story kind of ends up kind of funky. We tried doing some research on it. Basically, in the battle, he ends up shooting the Kraken.
Oh my
Or the
God.
Hafgufa. He shoots the Kraken's tentacle, just one tentacle, with an arrow given to him by this guy they refer to as the Redbeard, or the Red-Bearded Man, who some people
Okay.
think that it was actually like Odin himself
my God.
gifted him these like arrows that just don't miss its target.
Okay, that's
Earlier in the
cool, that's
story,
cool.
he ends up like killing his baby mama at one point. Like he ended
no.
up sleeping with some like demon and having some like demon kid with her, and then she ended up trying to attack him. Anyway,
There's a lot of
to
details.
Arrow Odd's story, and it's interesting enough on its own. Do your research if you'd like to like learn more about him. But when he ran into the Kraken, he shot one of the tentacles. The tentacles dipped, and he ran. It was the first fight he had ever ran from, because he had always won every fight, and he was feared and known for being a conqueror and wanting to be king because of his adventures and his success. But it was the first time he ever ran from a fight, and he lived to tell the tale. And then
Honestly, I'm kind of rooting for the half goof now. He said, "You were trying to colonize my island? I don't think.
Yeah,
I don't
true.
think so."
True.
So, I don't know. I'm siding with him now. I don't know.
He had like tons of warning. I think at that one point when he was trying to attack the Kraken, or when he was on his way, he was basically going to go kill his like evil son essentially, and he had his other son with him who was half giant, like warning him the whole time, being like, "Yo, this is a bad place. It's still here. It's gonna kill you." And luckily they ended up making it out alive, and then he ended up tripping on a horse skull and getting bit by a snake and dying anyway.
That sucks.
Yeah, so ripped. I just spoiled the end of the story for you, but the guy ends up dying.
Yeah, you said spoiler alert, and this
Spoiler alert.
story is from literally the 13th century. He said, if you haven't seen it, don't keep listening. Oh my god.
Even when the story starts out with the fact that Arrow Odd gets like, it's like, hey, you're born, you're gonna die by your horse. Your horse is gonna kill you.
Oh, so it was like prophesized.
It was a prophecy, that he was gonna die by his horse Faxi, and apparently his horse died way early on, and then he like walked over its grave, tripped on its skull.
Oh, so he got him from beyond the grave.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Post-mortem, man.
Post-mortem.
Dude, you get that in COD, it's like, there we go.
Oh my god, that's actually so funny. But it's a wild tale, and as we were saying, late 13th century, people were still writing tales about this. So moving forward from this, we kind of have a huge kind of fast forward. That can we add like a little bloop, like fast forward?
Yeah. Like a chunky gap.
Yeah, so a little bit of a gap there. I'm sure that there were other Kraken tales that we did not fall deep diving into, but in 1735 we come up with the next Kraken reference that was actually very, very important to the whole Kraken lore. So Carl Linnaeus was writing in the Systema Naturae. Systema Naturae.
Carl Linnaeus.
Linnaeus. Oh my god. Okay. Carl Linnaeus wrote in the Systema Naturae that he was labeling, different animals and stuff, and added the Kraken, and was like, hey, this is a thing that we need to be researching, discussing, talking about, maybe holding a TED talk about, I don't know. But he added it to the catalog because it was just so well known within Nordic countries that this animal was attacking things. And because of how the volume of stories that had arisen since the first written warning in 1180, it kind of became real to the people of this time. So it was added to this catalog. But it was later removed in following editions due to various controversial and differing stories.
Yeah, people were like, yo, this fake.
they were like, hashtag fact check. But no, they did it. They just ended up realizing that it may have been described as a fish and a squid and an octopus, differing
people
stories.
were questioning it enough were like, maybe it's not credible enough to put in a science
not
textbook
one
yet.
animal. Right.
Yeah.
So then a couple years later in 1752, Eric Pontoppidan?
Pontoppidan.
Girl, what?
Pontoppidan.
Pontoppidan? I'm
Pontoppidan.
so bad at these names. What is going on? Was out here writing the natural history of Norway. And guess who was mentioned? Homeboy Kraken. He made his appearance, and it was described as being a creature the size of an island. So over time, it has kind of, like I said, changed in size, and right now we're back at island size.
Yeah.
Which I think, to me, it's like during this time in 1752, what was the definition of island? Because there's island of like the one in SpongeBob, it's like the little lump of sand with the
Just
the
little
palm
palm
tree,
tree.
and that's an island. But then there's also the island of Oahu. So
Japan. Japan is just
technically an
massive
island. Yeah,
one. And if you want to talk about it, does Australia count as an island?
it's a subcontinent, I think. No, it's a continent.
It's a continent, but
Right.
still, it's a massive body. I mean, is everything an island?
Yes. I don't know.
confused.
But the fact that they're describing it as the size of an island makes me wonder how big it was. But let's just assume it's large and in charge, enough to swallow a ship. And the book stated that it was powerful enough to create whirlpools and submerge large ships in just a single motion. So it would just like vacuum suck them in, basically. And fishermen would risk their life to gather plentiful fish. Obviously, like I mentioned earlier, they would go where all the fish were. And in this Natural History of Norway book, they mentioned the same thing, that the Kraken would kind of bring the fish along, you know? So that was kind of how fishermen kept falling prey to such creature. It also claimed that a young kraken had washed up on the shore of Alstahwag. I'm so sorry. I think Alstahwag.
Alstahag.
Isn't that a restaurant in Epcot? Akershus.
Where you can meet the princesses.
Yes, just let's all
Snow
meet
White the Kraken.
on the shore of Alstahog.
You can also meet Sasquatch and many other cryptids.
That should be a character dining location. In Alstahog, you can meet the Kraken.
Imagine your bus, your server is just Bigfoot chilling with a towel over his
He's
arm.
like, "Can I sign your book?" And you're like, "Yes."
You only see his ankles because he's so big.
Right. So it did mention this, and that had taken place in 1680, 70 years prior to the publication, but it was cited there. So it does go to say that there were many Kraken sighting between the late 13th century and the 1700s.
Yeah, I'd say it stayed relevant enough for then, I guess, scientists to be like, hey, yo, is this real? And another scientist be like, yeah, bro, I think it's real.
And by them saying that, they were like, oh yeah, I heard. I just heard from a friend. Heard from a reliable source. But because of all these sightings and because people were continuing to keep the creature alive, whether it be through stories or through reading about it in these natural history books, quote unquote, this is kind of where the Kraken story turns from a Nordic sea tale to a modern day mythical mega legend.
Boom.
Say that 3 times. I can't.
You just did.
I mean, I could say it once, maybe not 3 times. I'm just saying. But from the 1700s, we take a turn to the 1800s, the modern day, with all these newfangled inventions.
Like the book.
Like the book, right, because the book was invented in the 1800s. Never heard of that before. So in 1830, a very famous sonnet titled The Kraken by Alfred Tennyson was published, and it created waves.
Yo,
Get it?
Honestly, that was good.
Thank
I like
you.
that. I like that. There we go.
That one landed, and then I ruined
That
it.
rocked the ship a bit.
I rocked the ship, rocking the boat, if you know what I mean. But the sonnet was very dramatic. If you guys have a chance to read it, he's out here feeling his feels about the sonnet. He at one point says that it says, the Kraken sleepeth, faint as sunlights flee, about his shadowy sides, above him swell huge sponges of millennial growth and height. So he's really making the Kraken sound like it's this kind of like scary, like giant creature just lurking and being mysterious and being that kind of vampire.
It is a abomination that man has dreamt up, that it's just it's so terrifying. He's really putting great words to describe this thing.
Yeah.
Really painting a picture.
Yeah, so he did that, and that really, I think, inspired a lot of people to think about it and to kind of keep its memory alive, if you will, because then later in 1851, Herman Melville wrote the novel Moby Dick, or should I say published the novel Moby Dick. And then that's when they encountered a vast pulpy mass furlongs in length. What does that even mean, furlongs in length?
Furlongs in length? I mean, I don't know. I was just asking Maile the other day what fathoms were and why they're 6 feet in length. But it's like 10 fathoms down, which means 60 feet.
Oh, so it's like one of those old-timey words
Yeah,
where
it's
it's
I'm assuming it's just another form of measurement.
Right. Yeah, I had written that quote and I was like, furlongs in length. Nice. But yeah, it is a measurement now that I'm thinking about it. I don't know exactly how much. You got Google it for free. But they do see this giant live squid. And while they describe it as a squid, we do think that this was kind of a reference to the previous Kraken sonnet and a reference to a lot of the old mythological creatures. What's a furlong?
A furlong is 1/8 of a mile.
Oh my God.
220 yards. Why does that exist?
He said
What?
an eighth of a mile.
Wait, so how
it's
long
called a
was this thing?
furlong. It just says
Just an eighth of a
It just
mile
says
long.
multiple furlongs, so it was
It
more.
was. It could. So just. Why not half a mile long?
He didn't say half. He said
Hello?
furlongs.
He was
It
like, I need to
sound-
use big words.
Yes, he's cashing in on as many 50-cent words as possible here, but it makes sense. So we see, a pretty big piece of media, again, referencing this giant creature. And then a few years later, in 1866, Victor Hugo releases the toilet.
His fire album.
His fire, yeah. Victor Hugo drops a deuce and just all this flame on the people. No, he drops The Toilers of the Sea, writes about the horrors of a cephalopodic creature that just drowns things, like drowns ships, drowns other, like
All.
just everybody involved drowning.
Not a good time. I would 100% unsubscribe. I would not be
How would
there.
you unsubscribe from getting
I
drowned?
just wouldn't subscribe at all. I would
Okay,
just be
that's
like, I
what?
wouldn't go swimming.
He wouldn't go swimming. But The Toilers of the Sea. Oh, that's why I said drop the deuce. That's funny.
Ploop.
Yeah. Anyways, makes sense to me. But Victor Hugo did mention the cephalopodic creature. And in 1872, again, another few years later, guess who comes into play?
Let me tell you.
Guess who?
Let me tell you.
Who is it?
Actually, no, that's not. I don't remember.
Oh my God, he doesn't know. He doesn't even know.
Tell me, Ash. Tell me. Give me.
It's my boy, Jules Verne.
Vern? You mean the turtle from Over the Hedge?
Not the turtle from Over the Hedge. Oh my God, I love Over the Hedge.
It's such a good movie.
I could quote that movie all day, and I feel
got
like
you,
no
girl.
one appreciates it.
It's my
The
favorite.
scene where the little squirrel with the hammy.
Hammy the squirrel.
He runs up and he's like, oh, the hedge, and he runs and he's like, it doesn't end, and then you see him zoom the other way, and he comes back and he's like, it doesn't end that way too.
It's like, so was it Steve Carell voices Hammy the
I think
squirrel,
so.
and then he drinks an energy drink, and he's just like.
Yeah, he's going. I love that movie. And they do they're looking at the hedge and he's like, what? It's so scary. Should we name it? That'll make it less scary. And they go, what should we name it? And he goes, Steve.
Steve, let's call it Steve.
Yeah, that's a
Steve
non-threatening
Carell.
name.
Steve
Yeah.
Carell. Call
And
it
then,
Steve.
and then they go, oh, great and powerful Steve. And they start to
Let's
negotiate.
call great and powerful Steve. What do you want?
I literally called my first car Steve because it was green after this movie. So if anyone knows.
This is why we're friends.
Yeah.
This is why we're doing this podcast
Because
together.
people just want to listen to us talk about Over the Hedge. If you haven't watched it or you don't remember it, you gotta watch it.
We're doing movie reviews too. B movie comes next after Over the
B
Hedge.
movie.
Let's go.
Oh, I thought you said it was a B movie. I was like, okay, first of all,
no,
Over the Hedge is an A plus movie.
There's a 3
First
pluses
of all,
after that.
It is a legend, an icon of our time.
A
But
masterpiece.
a masterpiece. But no, not Verne from Over the Hedge. It is Jules Verne. Jules Verne wrote 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and it is arguably one of the most iconic pieces of literature as far as squid-like creatures go. In 20,000 Leagues, there's a school of giant squid called devilfish attacking the vessel, and they end up killing a crewman. And this kind of depiction of the giant squid and just kind of really pushing this Kraken lore into the modern day, because it really made people think oh my God, these things are pretty scary and pretty out there. So we got Jules Verne to thank for making this iconic reference. And if you guys have ever been to a Disney park, particularly Disneyland Paris,
I've been there.
you've been to Disneyland
I used to
Paris?
work there.
Yeah. Tokyo Disney Sea currently has a 20,000 Leagues ride. And I think both California and Florida have made references to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And if I'm not mistaken, all of them have had or have, if they're still open, a giant squid featured or Kraken-like figure featured within the ride experience or within the walkthrough experience. So that's pretty cool, we're seeing them out here in the streets. They're still making appearances in theme parks, which is kind of fun. But we'll get into the theme parks in a little bit. But let's get into the modern day history. All right, and we're back with more Kraken.
Oh, thank goodness. I've been cracking my fingers and
I
I'm
was-
so nervous.
I was
I wanna get
lacking in
back
the
to it.
Kraken for those couple seconds. I was lacking of Kraken. Sorry.
Were you lacking in Kraken as well?
I was lacking of Kraken, but let's get back to it.
All right, I can do some Kraken. Or actually, I'll give you some Cetus.
Some Cetus?
Yeah.
I thought we were talking about Kraken.
No. So we've been talking about Kraken this whole time, but some people who have been talking about Kraken actually have been talking about Cetus this whole time. And let me tell you what I mean. So what's going on here is in the Clash of the Titans movies, the first one came out in 81, second one came out in 2010 with Liam Neeson. Basically, it's Greek mythology. So if anybody has any confusion of why the Kraken is a Greek myth rather than a Nordic myth, this is probably where it stems from, is because the line that has basically made the Kraken in, I think, our newest generations, like our age, our parents' age, maybe one step before that, I'd say the line, release the Kraken. It has basically come from these movies. And then you see this monster that doesn't look anything like the Kraken that we've been talking about this entire time. You see this kind of like bipedal, almost like Fishman from Scooby-Doo kind of thing.
Oh my God.
You know, like, yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
The old-timey one?
Yeah, like the swamp thing,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
is what we're talking about. It's something weird. It's something weirdly gross. It doesn't really make any sense. And that's actually Cetus. In the Greek mythology, there's a monster, a beast, have you, called the Cetus. And it's a constellation now, and it's normally called the Whale. But it kind of has like the face of a greyhound and like these flippers, and it's kind of depicted in a weird way in these movies. But
Yeah, I'm
this
very
is kind of
familiar.
what they call the Kraken. And that's kind of where the misconception comes from when thinking it's either Greek or Nordic. It's a Nordic tale, but we'll let them do what they want because they thought Kraken was a bit more sexy, you know?
They got those blurred lines. So thanks to... Oh, no. Not that song. That song is so...
It played
It's
too,
choice,
It
and
played too much on the radio.
And it was all... It's just a song.
Yeah.
But thanks to 1981, we were brought Release the Kraken. You know what I mean? So even though they were talking about Cetus, they just decided to call it a Kraken, and they kind of remixed the lore of the Kraken and said, is it a Cetus? Is it a Kraken? We don't know. We're going to call them interchangeable. So thank you to Sir Neeson for that.
Yeah, and that
Well,
kind
I'm
of
sure
kept
he
it
didn't write
alive.
it.
You know,
Yeah.
it kind of kept the Kraken alive, and we now have this massive beast. Because if you've seen the 2010 film, it is just a massive monster that I would not want to tango with.
You
However,
don't tango in general. What are you
hey, you've not seen my tango. Have
Corey,
you?
you're white.
I'm a Puerto Rican.
Oh, no.
My mom is half Puerto Rican. I am 25% a Puerto Rican.
That is the most Caucasian thing I heard. He said, excuse me, I am 20.
My mom came up with that. You want to take it up with my Puerto
When people
Rican
look to me
mother?
like, my 2% said that I can do this. And then suddenly.
Whatever. Anyway.
Anyways.
Apparently, that wasn't the only reference to the Kraken with that, like, release the Kraken kind of vibe. Ash, you're a bit more of an expert on this subject than I
Right.
am. Go ahead and take the reins on this one.
Right, I will take the reins. And because of the iconic 1981 and 2010 films saying release the Kraken, this kind of ended up in everywhere in pop culture. I mean, I'm sure like most big like reference pieces have like, at least said something about this. They've said it on SNL, they've said it on like just different places.
Yeah.
But my favorite place that they've ever said it was on Sesame Street. And if you know me, you know I love Muppets. I am a self-proclaimed Muppet stan. I'm so sorry if you guys don't enjoy puppets, but I think that they're one of the greatest entertainment mediums of all time. So sorry. Not sorry. But I had to find a way to include the Muppets in here. So, you're welcome to all you Muppet stans out there. I'm doing this for y'all and for me mostly.
And
but
if you think that you like the Muppets, you don't like them as much as Ash does. I'm going to tell you that right now. So I would love to see some sort of like Muppet battle go down between you guys and Ash. So check out the social medias later for that. But Ash, what's going on at Sesame Street with the Kraken?
In Sesame Street, Cookie Monster actually had a segment that was recurring in a few different episodes called Cookie's Crummy Pictures, and they would kind of do like spoofs of the iconic movies at the time.
What?
And so they've done a few different ones, but the one that's relevant now was titled Nosh of the Titans instead of Clash of the Titans. Nosh of the Titans. And within this like little spoof bit, Cookie Monster actually plays Perseus, instead of
Because Perseus was meant to kill the Cetus or the Kraken.
right.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he
yeah.
said, not Perseus, he's Perseus,
He's
and his little
Perseus.
sidekick was a Pegafish
Instead of a Pegasus.
And they faced the dreaded Medusa, which is played by a cow.
Meow.
So
Meow. Moo? Not meow.
No, Medusa.
Medusa.
Moo.
I don't
So-
know why I meow.
And during this Nosh of the Titans, he literally says, "Release the cracker," and I think that it is the funniest thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you do that for us? Can
they-
you
No,
no.
I can't even do like a good Cookie Monster impression. Like Cookie Monster. This is so terrible. I'm so.
Cookie.
You sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger a little bit.
Yeah. Release the cracker. Get to the chopper.
So essentially, that's what it sounded like, if anyone was curious. But you know, there it was. There it goes. But it was iconic to me, and I hope that everyone who's listening to this, all two of you, look it up and experience Nosh of the Titans because it's great. But yeah, anyways, continuing on to the modern day versions of the Kraken, we also have it in one of our favorite movie series of all time. Right?
Yeah, it's a pretty. I was about to say trilogy, but I think it's like five films now for the Pirates of the Caribbean series.
Yeah, come on, pirates.
And in Dead Man's Chest, we actually see Davy Jones summoning the Kraken to come take away our beloved Donnie Jep. Donnie Jep.
Donnie Jep. I'm sorry, the who?
Yeah, Donnie Jep. You know that guy with the beard.
I love Donnie Jep. That sounds like someone who would sell you alcohol at your local bar underage. You just walk up and you're like, my boy Donnie, and he doesn't even card you because he knows that you're 18. Serves you a little
Johnny
side
Depp.
of peanuts.
Johnny Depp, you know our beloved, the beloved Donnie Jep is somewhere else right now. He
Donnie
wasn't in
Jep
that
is
movie.
serving underage
I tricked
alcohol.
you.
But Johnny Depp.
He was selling you Kraken spiced rum. But over here, Johnny Depp, the pirate known as Captain Jack Sparrow, was kind of munched on and crunched on by the Kraken after Davy Jones brought it up from the sea.
I think in the movie it's kind of like Davy Jones's pet, right? Like
Yeah, in a way, he's like I don't know. For those D&D like kind of people out there, I think like almost like a summon, like you go or like a
it's like a summon
familiar in a
card,
way.
okay.
Like he's like, you know what? I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna use my like he got all the pieces of Exodia and kind of put it all together and was like, hey,
He's using his turn to summon the Kraken.
amen. And so he used it in Dead Man's Chest, and you see it like kind of washed up and dead on the beach at World's End, the fourth film. Wait, third film? Dead Man's Chest was second film. Third film was World's End, and you kind of see it like washed up on the beach, kind of just gone and dead, and no longer able to poop for fish.
So
So that's kind of sad. But when you die to it, it sends you to the Davy Jones locker, and you have to kind of like get back from there, like Johnny Depp, not Donnie Jep, does 2 times.
right. So yeah, I really love the Pirates of the Caribbean series, not because I actually know what's going on during it, because I'm pretty sure if you ask anybody who's normal and is not Disney adjacent what the plot of Pirates of the Caribbean is, nobody could tell you a single thing.
No.
I could not even tell you what the exact plot of Pirates of the Caribbean is, but do I still watch it like in the background while doing dishes? Yes. Do I still listen to the soundtrack religiously? Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't know the plot to this day. All I know is that they be out here and just running around being pirates and
Heck yeah.
stealing stuff, and then fucking Captain Jack Sparrow does like the funny run.
No, always.
Yeah,
the whole like the arms
the T-Rex
flailing,
arms.
and like the entire group of native people to the island chasing
Yes.
him. Yeah.
And then the jar of dirt. Like, you know, we know the iconic moments, we don't know the plot. So if you know the real plot of Pirates of the Caribbean, please explain, because I don't know how.
America explain.
America.
But basically, from that we get like a pretty real depiction, or not real, an accurate depiction of the Kraken in comparison to what Clash of the Titans gave us, because that was
Right.
actually, you know,
Cetus.
where we got this like tentacly kind of the most renowned form of the Kraken that we've heard through these sailors' tales.
It's what you think about, yeah. Because I think Cletus.
Cletus the
Cletus?
fetus?
Is his name
Cetus.
Cetus. Isn't Cletus the guy from The Simpsons?
I don't watch The Simpsons.
I don't mean either. But like, fuck, Cletus. Damn. First we got two characters going on. We got
and
Donnie Jeff, and
Donnie
we got
Jeff
Cletus
summons Cletus.
running.
He gets to use him to sell his alcohol.
They're running the same bar.
The Cletus Black Spiced Rum.
Cletus is actually the owner of the bar.
Have you heard of the new hockey team, the Cletus?
The Cletus.
the
Sorry.
Seattle Cletus.
The Cletus. No, okay, so no, the Cetus, fish person, and Greek. No, the Cetus. Okay, the Cetus is a fish person, and fish-esque and Greek, and the Kraken is more squid, octopus-esque as we see in Pirates of the Caribbean. So the general consensus of these two references is that Pirates of the Caribbean is technically more accurate in its depiction of what we've seen throughout history. Essentially, I mean,
Yeah, I would
it's a
definitely agree.
CGI monster, but you get the
Yeah, and in all intents and purposes, it's just a myth unless you've met it. But next, I think is one of the maybe the most humorous versions of the Kraken that we've seen in pop culture today, voiced by Joe Jonas himself.
The hot
I can't
Jonas.
switch the first consonant of those names because it would be the same thing. Joe Jonas and Joe Jonas.
Joe and
Jr.
Joe.
Why it wasn't Frank the Tank, I don't know. But we got Joe Jonas voicing a Kraken in Hotel Transylvania 3.
Big
where
oof.
the family goes on a cruise along with all of their cryptid monster friends. And
We're going to be referencing Hotel Transylvania a lot, I think, during this podcast because
Yeah.
you name a monster and they've got it.
Yeah,
Like, they've got
mentioned
a
it.
lot of stuff.
And basically, the Kraken's under the control of Van Helsing, I think, at one point, and goes evil and rogue and starts like smashing people and trying to kill Dracula. That's Van Helsing's his goal. And he turns into this evil DJ, and then the Kraken starts doing the Macarena, and
Wait, no, I think it was the fact that the Van Helsing thing had it under his spell, right?
yeah,
And
so
then-
they used the Macarena to get the Kraken back under control, back on the
Right,
on good
because
side.
Jonathan, the guy,
Jonathan is a good DJ.
He's a good
Yeah,
DJ.
yeah.
So the Van Helsing guy was like, we're gonna play the music to get Joe Jonas, aka the Kraken,
Yeah.
under the spell, and he started attacking people. And then Jonathan was like, I don't think. And so he started playing like some good music, quote unquote good music.
Exactly.
He played some songs that were choice. Which one did he play?
He said, "Baby, don't worry about a thing, because every little thing is gonna be all right." He's like, "This song's got a good message," and that's literally the only word sung in this song.
Right. And so he played that and then didn't work. But then all of a sudden he said, better idea. I'm going to get the Kraken out by playing the #1 hit song of eternity. And then they started playing the Macarena, and then
Saved the day.
the Kraken was free. Joe Jonas was free to sing again. And that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, so for the most part, the Kraken was a good guy until taken over and like made into this fearsome monster that started destroying Atlantis.
There's Kraken versus Dracula. So
Yeah.
what
It was Dracula versus...
Draculakin.
Draculakin. Which one do you like better? Cracula or Draculakin?
Team Cracula or Team Fuck.
She can't say her own team.
I'm laughing too hard. Team
Cracula's so good.
No, Team Cracula or Team Draculakin. Let us know what team you're on.
Draculakin, I like it.
Oh, God.
I like it.
Yeah, so, Hotel Transylvania 3. We're going to circle back to Hotel Transylvania because they are chock full of cryptids, and I'd like to thank them for their service by including Joe Jonas, one of Miley's favorite people on this planet. She loves the Jonas Brothers. She really does. Like, I've never met anybody who likes the Jonas Brothers more than Miley, I don't think. So, good for her,
Now, Ash, I got a question for you.
Yes.
In Disney's film, The Little Mermaid,
Okay. We got sea creatures galore.
lots of sea creatures. Would you count Ursula as a kind of Kraken?
That is so funny. I don't know. I think like towards the end, especially like when she's taking over, she literally takes over the ship, right? Like, right
Yeah,
at
she like grows huge and starts like smacking down and doing Kraken-y things, you know, with her
Yeah.
tentacles. And
Yeah, she was literally like just out there fully like ready to take down the ship. And I don't know. I think like would I consider her a Kraken? No, because Ursula's her own person. She is like her own character. However, I think that this was very much inspired by the Kraken. I think they
Yeah.
said we needed a Kraken-like creature.
Because what
And
she did was she created a maelstrom, did she not? With her,
right,
like,
right.
her
Oh,
scepter.
that's so true
She
because
took the
Maelstrom is
trident-
also Nordic.
She took the trident from what's his name, Triton, and started making a big, huge whirlpool to suck down the ship, just like the Kraken would do.
That's true, but Triton is of what
Triton's
mythological?
Greek, but
okay.
I believe the Little Mermaid itself is a Dutch thing, which isn't like not Norwegian, but
It's,
do you
like,
think
in the
it's
vicinity.
inspired by the Kraken? Because there was a story that Disney had released that had kind of gone and told the backstories of all of the villains, Maleficent, Cruella. The covers have like half of the face of the villain on the front of them, and there's one of Ursula. And it tells of like when they were kids, actually her and Triton are brother and sister. And Triton's the
I didn't
little
know.
brother.
That's crazy.
And basically, they're both allowed to pick whatever form they want. And
okay.
she picks like this tentacly, kind of gray, white-haired being because she thinks it's cool. She thinks that it's a good look. She thinks it's a beautiful creature.
I think that if like there's a live action, I mean there is going to be a live action, but it should be played by a drag queen, right? Like I feel like it's a very
don't
drag
know,
queen-esque
that'd be kinda
look, like because it's like the hair and like the
Isn't it-
proportions are wild.
Isn't it
and
Melissa McCarthy playing it?
that too, her
Is-
too.
she-
No,
she's
she's
the-
playing it in the live action. In
Yeah,
my
the live
head, I
action. You're
think
a drag queen.
a drag queen
I
should
would.
play.
I wouldn't mind watching a show with that.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
But in the end, like Triton was like, "That's ugly. That's disgusting. You look
That's so
awful as a
rude."
tentacled, gray, purple skinned beast."
that situation.
And he's like, "Mer people are beautiful, and we should all look like this." And basically, he like banned her.
He said
He's like, "You
he
out."
did an ugly ban.
Yeah.
Oh no.
He's like, "You ugly," and he sent her away. She went and like
Beast.
became a human. She did her form of what's her name, Vanessa. Is
Yeah,
it
yeah, Vanessa.
She took that form, went and was like an orphan in a village nearby, like off the shore of where she was from, lived as a human for years, and then ended up like. The village ended up finding out that she ended up being like a merfolk of some kind,
Right.
And they
Of magical descent.
they wanted to like stone her and kill her and everything, but then like the father who raised her was like, "Hey, no, wait," and they killed him instead, and she went like ape crazy, and then just turned into her big thing, destroyed the whole village, and then went back to the waters and resented Triton until we saw the story that we see today. You know?
That's wild. I had no idea.
Yeah, but I don't think personally that she's a Kraken. I do think, though, I agree with you, where she's maybe inspired. Some of her actions are
Kraken
inspired
yeah.
from the Kraken.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's like especially in like that kind of stuff. But anyways, I like that. We should delve into the Ursula Kraken crossover some
Yeah.
more later. But as of right now, as far as other inspiration, like kind of appearances or inspired sort of appearances of the Kraken in the 2008 book Artemis Fowl: The Time Paradox, there's like peaceful creatures that are inspired by the Kraken, and they stay in the same spot for centuries feeding on algae, and they actually double as islands, kind of like in our previous
Crazy.
references. Yeah,
We've never
But
seen them
instead
as
of-
peaceful before.
No, but they are doing the island thing as talked about in
Yeah, I know. I would if I could. You know,
Just
islands,
be in an island.
beaches,
Yeah.
lays on
Yeah.
coconuts with Malibu rum inside. Sounds Kraken rum.
Kraken rum. But they, were like very Hafabufa style being islands, but they were not flipping the script on them, if you will. They were just letting them chill on their back, which is kind of fun. And you've never really seen too many peaceful and like chill versions of the Kraken appear. So I thought that was a really cool reference.
Yeah.
In again a more modern take. But as far as even more modern things go,
there's a
if you've
ton.
ever been to SeaWorld Orlando, they've got a Kraken VR roller coaster experience. And I linked the roller coaster experience in our notes. If you guys want to watch it, you can.
Okay.
But it's really cool because I don't like roller coasters. Y'all know I'm very much like the hold your bag kind of person. Y'all have
Yeah,
fun on the
yeah,
roller
yeah.
coaster vibe. But I think I would be really down to do like a VR coaster because you can't see where you're going because you got the goggles on, right? And in this like SeaWorld ride, they got like, so you get on this roller coaster. It's like pretty intense. You got like the loops, you got the drops, you got your
Standard.
Just standard, like roller coaster stuff. But you have like the goggles on, and it's like taking you through the ocean. And you're following this Kraken-esque creature, and you're just going side to side, and it's really cool. I think the video is really fun. Yeah.
Man, once I go back to Orlando, I'm gonna have to check that out.
Check out the Kraken VR coaster, and there has been a slew of different places with Kraken named coasters, but I think this is the cooler, newer one because it is VR.
Yeah, I'm actually, now that I'm remembering it, I may be wrong. I think there's a place near Tampa Bay that was, I think Cypress Gardens was the theme park. It may or may not be closed now, but I think they had a Kraken roller coaster.
Oh, yeah.
I think they had their own.
There's a few.
There's several Kraken roller coasters, I'm sure. I mean, normally you try to like name something like after a roller coaster after something terrifying and a beast of some sort. That's
Make
a pretty
it
good
scary.
one.
Yeah.
What else is there, Ash?
I think also because, as we mentioned earlier, we do have some Kraken spiced rum. And Corey's actually been sipping on the Kraken spiced rum this entire
It's
podcast.
so good. It's so good.
Yeah, he's found out that there was a spiced rum brand called the Kraken, and he ordered it literally yesterday, so he could have some while we're
Amazon
recording.
coming in clutch. And they also have a coffee spiced rum. The Kraken's a coffee spiced rum, but I was like, I gotta try that. Me and Maile were like, yes.
So he ordered it, and it smells amazing. It smells really good. And I
Delish.
definitely have to try some later. I am still drinking coffee, and it is currently almost 9 p.m. or actually 9:30. 9:30 p.m. I don't even know what time it is, but I'm still drinking coffee. So, anyways, we got the spiced rum, and they actually trademarked the saying "release the Kraken" for like branding purposes, because obviously, if you're gonna have Kraken spiced rum, you gotta have it all.
Yeah, and that actually leads into the NHL team over in Seattle, correct?
Yeah, so the Seattle Kraken, they wanted, from what we researched, the Seattle Kraken NHL team, which you said is a newer team.
Yeah, they just had a new team, which means that like when you make a new team for the NHL, they did the same thing that the Golden Knights did, where they take 5 players from. They take a player from every single team in the NHL, and every team's allowed to protect their own, like 5 of their own players, and so then like. The Kraken did the same thing, and they're able to take them. I'm not really sure how they're doing. I don't even know if the hockey season has started. I've been way off on my hockey game recently. But yeah, it's a brand new team in Seattle named the Kraken. Really cool aesthetic, white with like marine blue kind of colors, and looks really neat. And I think they wanted to trade. They wanted to say release the Kraken, and then kind of have that. Like on merch and stuff, though, right?
Yeah, on the jerseys.
Yeah. So, but because the spiced rum has it trademarked, they couldn't do it. Correct?
Yeah, from what I've read, they were having some kind of issues because they really wanted to like say release the Kraken, because I mean, who doesn't want to say release the Kraken these days? But they wanted to add that, realized that the trademark was being held by Kraken Black Spiced Rum, and they actually ended up in this partnership where the Spiced Rum company became one of their sponsors.
Sick.
And yeah, and now they're intertwined in the tentacles of each other's business. And so
Yummy.
now they can use kind of release the Kraken on some merchandise because they came to an agreement.
That's cool.
So yeah, so now the rum, you got the Kraken rum, you got the Kraken NHL team, just out here, everybody's crack-a-lackin'.
I'm about it. I'm about
Yeah,
it.
so it's really cool. I'm looking at their merch right now, and it looks really, really fun. Like I have never really watched hockey, but from like what I've seen, I really like the hockey like jersey stuff. I think
Yeah.
they're pretty cool looking.
I'm a Penguins fan myself, but if they ever play, I'll invite you over for a game. We can
Let's
watch.
go Penguins.
Let's go Pens.
Let's go Kraken. Yeah, but that's a pretty cool reference.
True.
But another deep dive into the Kraken, if you guys have been following any sort of political stuff in the past years, like I mean, we all should be kind of watching that kind of stuff, especially because Donald Trump was out here being crazy and just there's a lot of things that
But
happened.
Donald Trump being crazy is nothing.
That's not new.
It's not new.
That's not
but
new.
I think what is new is kind of like the Kraken-related stuff to Trump these days. And I don't know too much about this, but you do. What's going on with that?
So a former member of Trump's legal team, like one of the more important ones, Sidney Powell, started claiming, like making this crazy remark that she was gathering all this evidence that like the Biden election was a fraud, and like you know how they were all saying like stop the count, like this is not good, like they were all saying that
Yeah.
this was a fraudulent election, which there was never any proof of like there being really. But Sidney Powell was like, no, I have the information, I have the receipts that this is terrible, and I'm gathering it. And so she was saying that she was a Kraken of her own, that she was just going to take this whole Biden thing down and kind of deem it what is it? It's a fraudulent election, I guess.
Yeah.
And before long, the hashtag release the Kraken had been picked up by all these conspiracy theorists, more notably like the QAnon family, the QAnon people who generally support the idea that everything Trump does is like correct and the fraud is real, and like they're just, the QAnon thing is a whole deep dive on its own.
So they like took like the whole release the Kraken thing and like ran with it.
And they spread it like wildfire. So they were saying like, yeah, the Kraken's gonna come and take this whole Biden presidency down, you know, better be safe. And
Interesting.
that's how kind of the Trump election fraud hashtag came to be, of releasing the Kraken. And as we all know, we are now under a Biden presidency because there was no information
There was
that
no
could
Kraken?
have, there was no
No
Kraken.
Kraken?
No, they were lacking in the Kraken department yet
Dang.
again. Which I don't think any of us are surprised about, but you know, good old QAnon coming back for another serving. But yeah, that is just another way as to how the Kraken has kind of crept its way into modern day.
Interesting.
Yeah, but it's all, there's so many references, and I'm sure that we can talk about a million more, but
Yeah.
let's talk about the real Krakens. Are there real Krakens, Cory? I don't know.
Let me tell you, like, I mean, there's a big battle between myth and science here, and I think it starts really coming together for humanity. Like, they start really questioning it with knowledge itself.
Right,
and
I think
rather than
especially-
just from legend around the late 17th century. After the scientists are kind of like, hey, this is real, and then a lot of people are like, no, we can't prove that. We can't prove that it is.
Yeah, with the whole natural history of Norway book, and like the
Yeah.
removal of the entry in Systema Naturae, or however you say it. But yeah,
Exactly.
people were just like, is it not? Science, and then science obviously developed, right?
Exactly, and the problem is, though, of course, the ocean itself is super mysterious. We only we have really figured out 5-10% of the ocean. 80% of it is like completely undiscovered, and we really don't know a lot about it. It's so mysterious, just the ocean itself. So like, imagine back then, 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago, like these creatures
yeah.
that may or may not have popped up from time to time. Like, we didn't have photography, we didn't have internet. Who knows? It could have been a Kraken. We don't know where it would have landed.
Right.
So at this point, we're a bit more knowledgeable, and we kind of have like marine life. We know what direction we need to head to, like when studying this thing. Some legends were kind of built off of like sightings in real life, like giant squids and stuff. And the thing is, with giant squids, we've only really been able to like study like 500 specimens or so.
It's not a lot for a
That's
whole
so
species.
little. That's all for an entire species. And the thing is,
Yeah.
like about 70% of the diet of sperm whales consists of giant squids, and that's where we find a lot of our stuff to study, is like in the stomachs of sperm whales. And 70% of an entire species, another species diet itself, is giant squids alone in tonnage. You know, like that's a lot of squid.
Yeah.
And like we have only been able to capture or be able to see or study 500 specimens. That's we don't know a lot, and we only really, like in 2004, were able to get video footage like off the coast of Mexico.
Well,
or in
I
the Gulf
think-
of Mexico,
yeah,
right?
in the Gulf of, well, okay, so I think that they actually captured, the first video of giant squid in the Gulf of Mexico,
Gulf
which
of
is kind of
Mexico.
crazy.
But a lot of it's in Japan.
2004.
2004,
That's
right?
not that long ago. I mean,
No, that's
I
less than
mean-
20 years. Less than 20 years, like
Less than 20 years?
16 years ago,
yeah.
17 years ago. It's
Yeah,
crazy
something like that. And yeah, again in 2004, big year for squid. 2004 coming in hot. So the same year we got like that video, we also got the first photographs, like solid photographs of giant squid in their natural habitat. And that was taken by Tsunemi Kubodera and Kyoichi Mori. And they're both Japanese scientists. And they had worked for nearly 2 years to grab these photos. Literally, so since from 2002 to 2004, they were just working hard
Just
to get a
nuts.
photo of
Yeah.
these giant squid, because we'd never gotten full photographic evidence of them in their natural habitat. Obviously,
True.
like we said, we had dead ones and like things that we'd studied, or not we, definitely not we, but things that people have studied in the ocean that had been deceased. But this is like in its natural habitat, which is huge, because like now we get to see it move and we get to see
Yeah.
it fully in its area.
And what's crazy is that like these squid exist all over the planet. In all
Right.
7 seas on Earth, giant squid exist. And only like in the Gulf of Mexico, and I think most commonly off the coast of Japan, have we found the most amount of footage of these giant squid existing and how they behave.
Yeah, so it's really cool. They have been kind of known to be around the 66-foot area. Like that's kind of where they mature at. But because we've only studied 500 of them, there's no necessary saying that that's like the biggest that they'll get or that that's an average size at all. They're kind of saying 66 feet is like the size of a giant squid right now. But we have no idea. Like 66 feet long, could be bigger, could be smaller. We don't know.
Yeah, it's
There's
been definitely
literally 500
exaggerated
of
to
them.
that point. I think
Yeah.
what I think 66 feet, like 20 meters, has been like the exaggerated size. And I don't think we even quite have found anything quite that size yet.
Oh, no,
But they definitely can reach that size. We don't know.
Well, I've read that they
have?
that they
Oh,
are
wow.
around that size.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
sometimes they
huge.
exceed that, which is why I'm saying that's kind of like the adult size is around 66 feet. Yeah.
How cool.
So that's kind of, yeah, well, it just depends. Like we said, there's been only 500
Yeah,
really
we don't
gone.
know.
So we don't really know. It could be a mystery. But that's, I think, why people find
Amen.
it so scary because, I mean, think about it. If someone had theoretically seen something like that being like brought up by a whale or like seen it on their journey, like that could just be life changing, especially in the 1600s or earlier. Like that would have been unreal. See, even today, I would be like absolutely rattled
Yeah.
by seeing something that massive.
Yeah, that's elephantine.
Elephantine.
It's one of my favorite words of saying
Oh my
something's like
God.
big. We were looking up synonyms the other night.
Large and in charge, chunky yet funky. Not Latrice Royale. No, the Kraken. But
Kraken.
anyways, yeah. So it's just crazy to think about how just massive these things are. And they're out here chilling as we speak.
Yeah.
Right now.
The Kraken.
Currently, I mean, we're in Japan. What if it just crawls up on the ocean or on the shore?
Yeah,
We
he's
don't
just
know.
down the street in Tokyo Bay.
Down the
right?
street.
He's at the seawall. Just be like, hey.
Yeah, we literally live like right next to the ocean, so here in Japan. But I'm sure that we will not be seeing any giant squid anytime soon. But
Maybe we will.
if any giant squid are listening, we'd love to interview you. We'd love to have you on the show. So just let us know.
Joe
Hit us
Jonas, are you out there?
hit us up on Instagram.
Do you,
know,
do
we'll
you
take
identify as a giant squid today?
we'll take him on. Miley really wants just Joe Jonas to come on here to talk about his Kraken experience, but I'll see what I can do. Yeah, let me just DM him real quick.
Yeah. We'll DM him on Twitter. It's just you wait.
Yeah, we'll DM Joe Jonas and the entire population of the giant squid to just talk about their experiences being misnomered as Kraken.
And
But-
does he think they exist? Do they-
Yeah, Joe Jonas. Anyways, as far as science goes, it's also really hard to study these guys because they're freaking cephalopods, huh, Cory?
Yeah, they're cephalopods. They don't have bones.
Cephalopods.
They don't have bones. They got no bones. They don't fossilize. They don't do the thing.
Yeah.
You can't just go to in Pokemon and take a cephalopod's fossil and go redeem it and make a big squid Pokemon out of it. No, that's not how it goes. You just don't got bones to fossilize. So it makes it really hard to be able to be like, oh, how long ago did these things exist?
And how big are they? And
How
stuff,
big
yeah.
can they get? And all of that. And we would probably have found a Kraken fossil by this point if
They had
if they existed and if they had bones.
No bone Kraken.
No bones. However, there is a kind of a weird thing. This big dino fish called the ichthyosaur.
The itchy sore.
It's Thor. The ichthyosaur. I said it right the first time.
Ichthyosaur.
Ichthyosaur. We found remains actually.
The Adventures of Toad and Ichthyosaur. That's what I want to get into, the dino fish.
Yeah. We found fossils and like the bones and stuff that had kind of shown signs of constriction, which is kind of neat because these things were huge. Like when I said these are dino fish, these things were big fish and big dinos, like mix the two together, like big. So something big would have had to crush this thing. And that's kind of how octopi hunt their prey. They like constrict their prey, crush it until it's dead, and then they eat it. And they kind of found the bones the way that octopus would just like kind of leave them too.
Yeah, but this thing is large and in charge, so octopus is not really like the thing that killed it, right?
Truth. So what was big enough?
Giant squid.
Maybe
Maybe.
the Kraken.
Quacking.
But also giant squid, kind of, they're exaggerated. 66 feet in length is rumored, but none have actually been like scientifically like.
It's not a
proven.
good average.
Not a good average. I mean, it's the average It's most of them have a
Ballpark.
range right there. It's
Ballpark
what
size.
everybody like wants to be. I want to be 66 feet, but we just won't have it today.
Just got 6 feet.
I wish.
What are you, 5'11"?
We're gonna move on. Squid or octopus? That's the thing. A lot of people are wondering whether this Kraken is a squid, octopus. A lot of people even said it was a crab at one point.
Yeah, and also a cuttlefish. There we go.
Cuttlefish.
Took me a while to get there. Yeah, a little cuttlefish. But
And most likely it's a squid. Most likely it's a squid because octos are pretty shy and they dwell more toward like the sea bottom.
okay, but octopus are not shy. Have you seen the footage of them in aquariums? How like they'll just like the one that escaped, like they had it in captivity. Yeah, I think at an aquarium or like some kind of research center.
Is Finding
and
Dory?
this thing, no, well. Could be, but no, like this octopus like literally watched their like scientists or whoever was in there doing research unlock and lock the door day after day, and one day he just got out of like his little thing because like they can fit through anything that's the size of I think their mouth. That's like their
Something like
that's
that,
like the size that they can get through. Got out of the tank, unlocked the door, and just decided to walk down the hall.
The heck?
He just said bye. Could you like
On
these
all
things?
8 legs, just strutting himself
Yeah.
down the hallway.
That was his institute.
Oh my
It was
goodness.
It no longer was anybody else's.
renamed it
was
that day.
It was his now. But yeah,
Whoa.
so I think that regardless of like any mythical creature or not, squid and octopus, I think to me are some of the most interesting creatures of all
Yeah.
time. They're incredible.
They're massively intelligent.
Yeah, and I love them. And if I could ever like get into close encounters with some, like I really would want to. I used to want to be a marine biologist like growing up as a kid. I think everyone, I think at one point was like, I want to be a marine biologist because we like sharks and dolphins and stuff.
Yeah.
But I would really love to get some like cool, like, I don't know, up close encounters with like an octopus or a squid. It'd be really fun.
I, for one, am terrified of the ocean, so I
No,
will
I'm
stay
not.
far away from the beach or anything, because sand is coarse, irritating, and gets everywhere, and
Oh,
I
yeah,
will
you do
not
not
have
like the
that.
beach.
I do not like the beach.
But I think
Anakin
that
said it best.
Anakin?
Yeah, Skywalker
Oh,
from Star
yeah.
Wars, Episode 2. He doesn't
Episode
like
2,
sand.
yeah,
I don't
he
like
doesn't
sand.
like
I'm
sand,
right there
yeah.
in the same boat.
Right.
But yeah, most people say that like it's a squid because they're a bit more aggressive, and you see them a bit. They surface a lot more than octopi do in the wild, at least. But at the end of the day, Ash, are Kraken real?
I think that the spirit of Kraken are definitely real. I don't obviously necessarily believe that there is a giant like squid octopus creature just taking over and taking down entire ships because
Yeah.
I would just like to believe that that's not true because the size of that would just be absolutely shocking to me and just crazy. So I don't think it's real, but I think the spirit of the Kraken is. You know what I mean? Like we all have a
Truth.
little bit of it in us. This is very Disney Channel movie-esque of me to say, but I think that, you know, like it's amazing that these tales have been, like these myths have taken on such a life of their own because these creatures, you know, like squid and octopus are very real and we fear them, I think, naturally as humans. Or like we have some kind of innate interest in them because of their power. So I think they have the spirit of the Kraken, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So I believe in that, but I don't think that there's anything that large just dwelling.
I think it would have pinged on one of our radars somewhere in some country. Somewhere, maybe someone has it like kind of under control, like Van Helsing did when Joe Jonas went under the evil DJ EDM beat that was going on. And maybe someone has control of the Kraken, or maybe it's just resting now. But
Taking a nap.
I'm scared of the ocean, but I wouldn't say it's because of the Kraken. But you know, you best believe if I see a Kraken, I'm gone. I'm out of here. There's no way them tenties are gonna touch me. Ain't gonna let it happen. I ain't gonna let those suckers on my face. It's not gonna happen. No,
Nope.
ma'am.
No,
But hey, that's just because we don't think it's completely corporeal and physical and that we can touch it doesn't mean that it's not real. It's just sometimes seeing is believing, and that's where I'm gonna leave it.
yeah, well, it's up to you guys to think whether or not a Kraken-sized creature is out there, but thank you for helping us dissect it today. Thank you, Cory, for taking on this case with me.
You got it. I'm gonna go drink with Donnie Jepp.
Donnie Jepp and Cletus go drink
We're
at
gonna
their
drink
bar.
some Cletus.
No, you're gonna go drink at their bar. Anyways, thank you guys for joining us. It has been a wonderful time dissecting the case of the Kraken. As someone who didn't truly understand its depth and history before this, very pleased to know that I know way too many Kraken facts now.
Yeah, no, it was nice to know.
It's
So,
good. But thank you guys for listening if you've made it this far. We appreciate you and making it through all the terrible, horrible jokes that we've made today. I would like to apologize to the Kraken community during this time. I will release an iPhone notes apology for all the horrible Kraken puns that I've made at this time. But yeah, though the Kraken is very intimidating in size, it's a name that still haunts all of us and may even swing among us today. Did I say swing among us?
swing. Here's a monkey.
He's out here swinging. No,
He's swinging.
swinging on the boats.
On the boats.
He's out here swinging on the boats. But rumors are saying that it's playing hockey in Seattle, munching on Donnie Jupp himself out there in the waters. The tales of the Kraken are not over. What are your thoughts on the sea mystery? Get it? Sea mystery? Get it? It's a good joke. I will also be including this in the notes apology. Let us know if you guys think it's real, and let us know if you guys have ever seen anything like this. I think it's time to...
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, I want you to do it.
Release the Kraken.
Bye, guys.
Bye.